Imagine this. It's freezing outside, a blizzard is raging, but in your kitchen you have your own little oasis. Aromatic basil, fresh dill, curly parsley. Sounds like a dream, right? But for 97% of people, that dream quickly turns into pale, stretched and lifeless little stalks sadly drooping in their pots. You blame yourself thinking you overwatered, underwatered, or just bought bad seeds. But what if I told you that the main mistake killing your winter garden isn't what you think it is at all? In this video, we're going to uncover that secret and turn your windowsill into a thriving green production line. Ready to find out what you've been doing wrong all this time? I guarantee the answer will surprise you. Every autumn, thousands of people decide to extend summer inside their homes. It's a brilliant idea. Fresh herbs for the table, savings at the grocery store, and a pleasant hobby that brings joy. We enthusiastically buy beautiful pots, the best soil, and premium seeds. We place everything on what we think is the brightest spot, the south-facing windowsill, and we wait for a miracle. The first sprouts do appear, filling us with hope. But then begins that all too familiar wilting. The plants stretch out, turn pale, weaken, and eventually die. We try again, changing our watering tactics, fertilizing, and moving the pots around. But the result remains the same. This cycle of disappointment makes many people give up and believe the myth that growing anything decent indoors during winter is impossible without complex equipment and specialized knowledge. But in reality, the root of the problem is just one thing, and it's much simpler than it seems. We'll start with the most popular suspect: poor watering habits. This is the knee-jerk reaction for every beginner gardener. When we see drooping leaves, we either grab the watering can in a panic, or we assume it's too much water and try to dry out the soil until it's basically dust. Both approaches are fundamentally wrong. Yes, both soaking the roots and letting the plant dry out are disastrous. However, in winter, watering issues are almost never the primary problem. They are merely a consequence. Think of your plant as a tiny living factory. To operate efficiently, it needs energy. If that energy is absent, the plant cannot properly absorb water or nutrients from the soil. So, no matter how perfectly you try to water, if that core energy process is interrupted, the roots simply won't take in moisture. They will either start to rot in saturated soil, or the plant will dry out completely, even if the soil itself feels moist. Therefore, before you try adjusting the water schedule, you must first locate that main switch that actually initiates the plant's entire life mechanism. Alright, so if watering isn't the problem, perhaps the issue lies with the soil itself. Maybe I bought the wrong kind of potting mix, and it's lacking essential nutrients. That's a completely logical assumption to make. Substrate quality is undeniably crucial. A good, loose, nutrient-rich soil is the foundation of a healthy root system. But let's go back to our factory analogy. You might build the most state-of-the-art workshop and stock it with the finest raw materials, which for us are the nutrients in the soil. But if the factory power is shut off, none of the machinery is going to run. It's exactly the same with your plant. Even if it's sitting in the most fertile soil imaginable, it cannot absorb or process any of those beneficial elements if it lacks the necessary energy. What's more, an excess of fertilizer under these conditions can actually be detrimental. It creates an overly high concentration of salts in the soil, which literally burns or damages the already weakened root system. So yes, the soil mix is important, but it isn't the primary, catastrophic mistake that is single-handedly wrecking our hopes for a winter harvest. The third popular myth we often encounter involves temperature and drafts. I probably gave my poor plant a cold when I aired the room out, you might think. Or maybe the reverse. The radiator air is just too dry. It must have sucked all the moisture out. And yet again, there is a kernel of truth in these observations. Drastic temperature fluctuations and the arid air produced by central heating definitely cause stress for plants. These conditions can certainly weaken the plant, making it far more susceptible to illness. But they are almost never the root cause of death. A healthy, robust plant that receives adequate energy is capable of resisting these harsh elements. It will adapt. However, A weak, energy-starved plant won't survive even the slightest draft. Think of it like a person. If you are healthy and full of vitality, a light breeze won't bother you at all. But if you are worn out and depleted, you could catch a serious cold from any minor gust. Therefore, drafts and dry air are really just secondary enemies. They finish off an already struggling victim. Our goal is to identify the main culprit. So, we've eliminated the most obvious culprits. It's not the watering, it's not the soil, and it's certainly not the temperature. What is it then? It's time to reveal the core issue. The main, fundamental, and most severely underestimated mistake when growing greens indoors during winter is a catastrophic misunderstanding of the plant's light requirements. Light is essentially the electricity that powers our tiny plant factory. Photosynthesis, the process that converts light, water, and carbon dioxide into energy, is the absolute foundation of life for any green organism. And in winter, especially in our latitudes, light availability becomes a genuine disaster area. We humans tend to think, if I can read a book in this room without turning on a lamp, the plant must have enough light. But this is the greatest misconception. The human eye is an incredibly adaptive organ. For a plant, though, just bright enough is utterly useless. Plants need specific, measurable parameters: intensity, duration, and the correct spectral balance. And in the winter months, not a single windowsill, not even the sunniest one, can reliably provide these three critical conditions. Let's take a closer look at the myth of the perfect south-facing window. A lot of people treat it like a magic bullet. They often say, "My windows face south, so I get tons of light." But let's examine that statement through the lenses of physics and plant biology. The first issue is intensity. In winter, the sun sits much lower on the horizon. Its rays hit the atmosphere at a sharper, more oblique angle, causing them to travel through a far greater volume of air, shedding a huge portion of their usable energy along the way. Even on the clearest December noon, the light intensity right at your windowsill will be dozens of times weaker than it is on a cloudy day in July. Secondly, consider the glass. Standard window glass, especially modern double-pane units, filters out a significant percentage of UV light and often blocks other crucial spectra that plants need for photosynthesis. The third factor is duration. In December, your natural daylight might last only 7 or 8 hours. Meanwhile, most light-loving crops, like basil or dill, need between 12 and 16 hours of light just to develop normally. Ultimately, your plant sitting in that south window is receiving a light ration that is short, dim, and nutritionally incomplete. It's enough for the plant to struggle and survive, but it is utterly insufficient for robust growth and healthy development. Let's talk in more detail about light intensity, or, to use the scientific term, illuminance. This is measured in lux, or, more accurately for plant growth, in micromoles per square metre per second. We won't dive into complex formulas. Just imagine this: a bunch of dill needs at least 5,000 to 6,000 lux just to grow normally. On a clear winter day on a south-facing windowsill, you'll get maybe 1,500 to 2,000 lux at best, and only for a couple of hours right around noon. But if the day is overcast, which is much more common in winter, that drops down to 500 to 700 lux. For the plant, this is essentially darkness. It's like trying to charge a powerful car battery with a tiny AA cell. There's just enough energy to maintain basic processes. Forget about any real growth, development, or accumulating green mass. The plant is in a state of constant energy starvation. It ends up spending more resources just to survive than it receives from the weak winter sun. Let's talk now about the duration of daylight, the photoperiod. This factor is just as crucial as light intensity. Plants are complex, living organisms equipped with incredibly precise internal clocks. They effectively know when it's day and when it's night, triggering various biochemical processes based on the time. For most plants, a short photoperiod signals winter is here, time to enter dormancy and conserve resources. Even if you miraculously provide a plant with incredibly bright light, but only for 8 hours, it simply won't engage in active growth. It will remain in a state of rest or dormancy. Think of it this way. Imagine being fed highly nutritious, delicious food, but only one tiny portion a day. You won't starve to death, but you certainly won't have the energy needed for intense activity. This is precisely why it's critical, not just to provide bright light, but to illuminate them for a sufficiently long duration, artificially extending their summer to the necessary 12, 14, or even 16 hours for some specific crops. The third pillar supporting plant health is the light spectrum itself. Sunlight is made up of waves of different lengths, which we perceive as the various colours of the rainbow. However, plants don't actually need every single colour for photosynthesis. The most crucial ones are blue and red. The blue spectrum is responsible for root system development and building green mass. It keeps the stems short and sturdy, and the leaves dense. The red spectrum, on the other hand, stimulates flowering and fruiting. Sunlight provides all these necessary components in a perfect natural balance. But, as we mentioned earlier, window glass filters out a significant part of that essential spectrum. Furthermore, the standard indoor bulbs we use for general illumination have a completely inappropriate spectrum. They are full of yellow and green light, which plants barely utilise. Shining a standard incandescent bulb on your greenery is essentially like trying to feed a person hay. It might look like food, but it simply cannot be digested. That is why supplementing your plants requires specialised lighting, commonly known as grow lights or phyto lamps. So, what exactly happens to a plant when it's completely starved of light across all three necessary criteria? It begins a desperate fight for survival. Its primary goal is simple: stretch towards the light source. This triggers a mechanism called etiolation. The plant sacrifices all its meagre resources, prioritising rapid upward stem growth. The internodes, the spaces between the leaves, become extremely long. The stem itself grows thin and fragile. The leaves are stunted, pale, and often yellowish. This is because there isn't enough energy left to produce chlorophyll, that vital green pigment necessary for photosynthesis. The result is that pitiful sight: a long, pale, sickly creature that collapses at the slightest touch. This isn't really a plant. It's a desperate cry for help. It's signalling us directly, "I'm in the dark, I'm starving," and continuing to water or fertilise a plant in this state will only accelerate its demise. So, we've pinpointed the main culprit: inadequate light. Now let's move on to the primary weapon we have for this fight: grow lights. When you start shopping for them, you'll encounter two main types: bicolour lights, which emit that characteristic pinkish-purple glow, and full-spectrum lights, which look similar to standard white or yellowish daylight bulbs. Bicolour lights focus their output only on the two spectral peaks most vital for photosynthesis, blue and red. They are highly efficient from the plant's perspective and extremely economical. This is because they don't waste electricity producing the green and yellow light spectrums, which plants utilise poorly. However, their distinctive purple glow can be uncomfortable for human eyes and tends to distort the plant's natural appearance. Full-spectrum lights, on the other hand, mimic natural sunlight by including all colours of the rainbow. While they are slightly less efficient in terms of power usage, they create a much more comfortable environment for your eyes and allow you to accurately assess the health and colour of your greenery. So, what type of grow light should you choose? If you are lighting a living space where you spend a lot of time, full-spectrum lamps are definitely the better option. They won't strain your eyes, and they will blend seamlessly into your interior design. You'll be able to admire your plants and see their true, vibrant, healthy colours. However, if you've set up your mini garden in a separate area, like a utility room, a pantry, or a closed shelving unit, you can absolutely use bicolour lights instead. These deliver excellent results while keeping your energy consumption low. In recent years, multispectrum lamps have also hit the market. These lights include additional wavelengths beyond just red and blue, often incorporating far red and ultraviolet light. They are believed to stimulate plant growth and development even more effectively. But if you're just starting out, especially for growing basic herbs and greens, a high-quality full-spectrum or bicolour lamp will be perfectly sufficient. The most important thing is simply having a light source installed. The next crucial topic is the lamp's power output, or wattage, and this is where beginners often encounter a common pitfall. Many manufacturers and retailers list the power output solely in watts. However, a watt measures electricity consumption, not the actual amount of light the bulb produces. For example, a 100-watt, old-school incandescent bulb and a modern 15-watt LED can emit the exact same amount of light. This is why relying purely on wattage can be misleading. The more accurate measurement is luminous flux, expressed in lumens. But, as we've discussed before, lumens measure brightness as perceived by the human eye, not the specific light required by the plant. The most precise indicator we have is ppfd, photosynthetic photon flux density. This tells you exactly how many light photons useful for photosynthesis land on a specific area every second. Unfortunately, not all manufacturers provide this specific metric. So here is a simple rule of thumb for beginners. For a standard shelf about 1 metre long, dedicated to growing greens, choose a grow light with a true LED wattage of at least 20 to 30 watts. Buying a good grow light isn't enough. Proper positioning is critical. This is a crucial element that many overlook. Light intensity drops off extremely quickly the further you move from the source. If you mount the lamp a full metre above your plants, they'll only receive a fraction of the available light. The optimal distance between the grow light and the plant canopy is typically 15 to 30 centimetres, or about 6 to 12 inches. This range ensures they receive maximum energy output. As your greenery grows, this means you will constantly need to raise the light fixture. Therefore, it is highly recommended to use an adjustable hanging or pulley system. It is also crucial that the light mimics the sun, shining directly down onto the plants from above. If the light is positioned too far to the side, your plants will stretch and become warped as they try to reach the source. Finally, the light must evenly cover the entire grow area to ensure all your seedlings and plants receive a consistent and equal amount of energy. The final critical element in setting up the right lighting is the schedule, or photoperiod. As we've mentioned, plants need a long day, not just a bright one. Lighting them 24/7 is a bad idea. Like us, plants need the darkness to rest and to complete specific dark cycle phases of photosynthesis. The ideal schedule for most indoor greenery is between 14 and 16 hours of light per day. Turning the lights on and off manually every day is both inconvenient and unreliable. You might forget, travel, or simply oversleep. Plants thrive on consistency. The indoor gardener's best friend is a simple mechanical or digital plug-in timer. You set the on and off times just once. For example, from 7 in the morning until 10 at night, and then you can forget about the hassle. The automation handles everything for you. This simple and inexpensive device guarantees your plants a stable photoperiod, which is the key to their overall health and vigorous growth. So let's see what happens when we address the core issue and provide our plants with adequate light. That's when the magic happens. Our plant factory switches into overdrive. Active photosynthesis kicks in immediately, and with that, all the plant's other requirements change drastically. First and foremost, its water needs. If your pot used to stay damp for a week, now, under a bright grow light, the plant starts actively drinking. It transpires moisture through its leaves, while the roots vigorously draw water from the soil. The soil will dry out much faster. You might find yourself watering every 2 or 3 days. This is where your ability to gauge soil moisture truly becomes critical. Now, overwatering or drought can become a genuine issue because the plant's entire metabolism has dramatically accelerated. You'll notice your plants transition from a sluggish, dormant state into a phase of explosive growth. Increased watering also brings an increased need for nutrients. A rapidly growing plant is a hungry plant. In the small volume of the pot, it quickly exhausts all available nutrients. Nitrogen for lush leaf growth, phosphorus for strong roots, and potassium for overall health. While feeding was detrimental during periods of low light, now it becomes absolutely necessary. You can begin regular fertilization approximately 2 to 3 weeks after germination, once the seedlings have established themselves under the grow light. The best option is a complete liquid fertilizer formulated for greens or vegetable crops, applied according to the instructions every 1 to 2 weeks. This is the crucial stage where quality soil and proper fertilizers really start to matter, especially now that the lighting issue has been resolved. The plant finally has the energy to absorb all these inputs and efficiently turn them into lush, flavorful leaves. Let's look at a specific example. Basil. This is perhaps one of the fussiest and most light-demanding herbs you can grow indoors. 99% of all failures with basil are directly related to lighting. Without powerful supplementary lighting, basil turns into that familiar, long, thin, weak stalk with just a few tiny leaves on top, the kind that has neither flavour nor aroma. But if you place it under a high-quality, full-spectrum grow light for 16 hours a day, you will witness a transformation. In just 1 week, it will begin producing side shoots. The main stem will become thick and strong, with much shorter internodes, resulting in compact growth. The leaves will be large, deep green, and packed with essential oils. You pinch off the top, and it just starts to bush out even more. With the right light, consistent watering, and occasional feeding, you can grow a truly magnificent, bushy basil plant on your windowsill, enough for fresh salads and homemade pesto. And what about microgreens? They're super popular these days. You might think growing them is completely straightforward. Sprinkle seeds on a grow mat, add water, and boom, harvest in a week. While that's generally true, light still plays a critical role, even here. It's true that most seeds don't need light during the initial germination phase, but the moment those first cotyledon leaves emerge, they instantly require energy for photosynthesis. If the light is insufficient, your microgreens will stretch out, looking pale and watery. They simply won't develop the nutritional benefits or the robust flavour you're aiming for. Of course, microgreens don't need the same high-powered grow lights you'd use for a mature basil plant, but a good quality LED grow light placed close to the mat will dramatically improve your results. You'll get short, stocky sprouts, intensely coloured leaves, and maximum vitamin concentration. If we boil down the recipe for a successful winter windowsill garden to a single principle, it is this: plant light first, everything else second. Stop wasting your time and energy obsessing over the perfect potting mix, meticulously calculating millilitres of water, or finding the ideal fertiliser. Not until you've secured the primary source of life for your plants. Light is the bedrock of indoor gardening. It is the foundation upon which every other aspect of care is built. Without adequate light, everything else is meaningless. The moment you install a quality, grow light and establish a consistent supplemental lighting schedule, you will see 90% of your growing problems vanish instantly. Your greens will stop getting leggy. They will start growing vigorously, and only then can you focus on mastering the finer details of watering and feeding. Remember this crucial point. In winter, on a windowsill, there is no such thing as too much light. Your primary mission is to transform your dark, gloomy windowsill from a shadowy cave into an authentic slice of a sunny summer day. And finally, let's wrap things up with a core takeaway. The biggest mistake we all tend to make is viewing the world through an anthropocentric lens. Simple anthropocentrism. We judge what a plant needs based purely on our own human senses. If it feels bright and comfortable to us, we assume it's bright enough for the plant. But the plant kingdom operates by entirely different rules. The fundamental laws of photon physics and chlorophyll biochemistry. Understanding and embracing this reality will instantly elevate your indoor gardening game to a whole new level. You stop being a casual waterer of plants and become an engineer of a miniature ecosystem, taking control of its primary energy source. This knowledge won't just allow you to get a stable harvest of fresh greens year-round. It will also give you a far deeper appreciation for the life of your plants. Your winter windowsill garden isn't just a few pots of dirt. It's a small, manageable scientific experiment, one that, with the right parameters, always yields a delicious and healthy result. Don't be afraid of the light. Provide what your plants truly need, and they will reward you lavishly. So, let's recap what we've learned. We usually blame our failures on everything but the real problem: poor watering, the wrong soil mix, or drafts. But the real, ruthless killer of our winter indoor gardens is simple: plain darkness. I don't mean the darkness we can perceive with our eyes, but the severe energy starvation our plants face on those dreary, dim winter windowsills. Short days, low sun angles, and windows that filter out crucial light. All these factors create conditions fundamentally incompatible with the normal life of most herbs and vegetables. And the only way to fix that is to take control of the light source entirely. A grow light isn't a luxury item or complicated professional equipment. It is simply artificial sun, essential for your plant's winter survival. Solve the light problem and you'll solve 90% of all your other gardening issues. Thank you so much for sticking around until the end of the video. I truly hope you found this useful. Be sure to subscribe and hit that like button so you don't miss any future episodes. Now for a question for all of you. Tell me in the comments about your biggest failure when trying to grow greens indoors during the winter. Let's share our experiences.